From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Close encounter with a wildcat, how one woman here in Arizona went too far to snap the perfect selfie.
Plus, stinky situation. We take you to the border where thousands of gallons of sewage water are overflowing into an Arizona city.
And faith leaders are getting trained on what to do if an armed shooter targets their church.
Cronkite News starts now.
Go ahead and state your emergency.
Okay, so we have this lady, she got clawed by a panther, by one of our jaguars.
Okay, where's she at?
She's at the zoo. We need an ambulance right now for her, because her arm is like a pretty bad too.
We're learning more tonight about the jaguar that attacked a woman trying to take a selfie at a zoo here in Arizona. Good evening, I'm Marcella Baeto.
And I'm Anthony Totri. Thank you for joining us. The Wildlife World Zoo says witnesses saw the woman crossing over a barrier to take a picture of the jaguar enclosure, and that's when the wild animal attacked.
Cronkite News reporter Ashley Carter traveled to the zoo today where the jaguar appeared to have been removed, but business continued as usual.
A long line of visitors still entered the Wildlife World Zoo in Litchfield Park today. Some passed by the jaguars, pointing them out, but from what I saw, nobody was whipping out their phones for a selfie. According to the Wildlife World Zoo, the victim, who had been attacked by the female jaguar after crossing the barrier to try to take a selfie, apologized for her actions and took responsibility for what happened to her. And today we found out it's not the first time someone got too close to the wild animal. A year ago, it scratched another person who crossed the barrier, but visitors didn't seem too concerned.
I feel like the zoo put the barriers at like a safe distance, and so we just make sure we don't don't cross those barriers. I really know today we've been here and we haven't thought about that at all.
Visitors still walked around with their phones taking pictures of the sleeping jaguars from a distance, but overall business continued at the facility as if nothing ever happened. The owner of the zoo wasn't available per comment, but the zoo's Twitter page released a statement thanking people for understanding their decision not to euthanize the animal and assuring everyone the victim needed a few stitches, but overall was fine. There is no word if extra safety measures or rules will be put in place to avoid another incident like this. In the broadcast center, Ashley Carter, Cronkite.
A 1-year-old in Pima County has been diagnosed with the measles. The MMR vaccine is 93% effective against the infection, but over 450 people die from measles every year in the U.S. Measles spreads through the air when an infected person coughs or sneezes. Last week, 2 cases of the mumps were also confirmed in Maricopa County, including 1 case at Hamilton High School in Chandler. Officials are working to see if there was any community exposure to these diseases.
As security on the southern border continues to create national headlines and controversy, one border community says their big worry is actually something else. Reporter Austin Westfall is live in the broadcast center with what Nogales officials are calling their actual crisis. Austin?
Yeah, Nogales, Arizona and the communities around it are facing a problem. Sewage from Mexico contaminating the water that flows through their area. The question now is, how are these two towns on both sides of the border going to find common ground to tackle this complicated issue?
If you want to talk about a crisis that we have in this community, that is our crisis. Why is Mexico sending us their raw sewage on an overflow? Why?
Why and until when? Those are the two main questions that Nogales, Arizona City Council member Marcelino Verona is asking, unable to hide his anger about the quality of the water flowing through his city. In late January, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality confirmed that water from Mexico containing raw sewage is intermittently contaminating the Nogales Wash, posing potential health risks to the community on the U.S. side.
Why do we have to get all of their crap?
I didn't know that this is what's happening.
This border town is no stranger to reports of the Nogales Wash being dirty. Santa Cruz County saying on its website, wastewater contamination of the Nogales Wash attributable to Mexico as it enters Arizona has been an ongoing issue for over 2 decades. Some, like Elidor Zamorano, who's lived in Nogales all his life, say they've known since childhood not to go near the wash.
They wouldn't let us play in the river because it was contaminated with sewage water from Mexico, I would say.
Some residents here in Nogales tell Cronkite News that kids and pets play in this very wash, even though that's exactly what they're not supposed to do.
Juan Rodriguez recently moved to Nogales from California. His granddaughters and dogs have played in the wash.
I don't want them to get sick, so I have to be very careful from now on.
The potential for illness caused by raw sewage is one of the reasons officials are urging the public to avoid the Nogales wash.
We're a community at risk.
Ben Lamelli is a Rio Rico resident and retired hydrologist who worked with the Department of Interior. He says there are more towns along the border he also worries about.
Whether you're talking the cities of Ambos, Nogales, or all the downstream communities of Rio Rico, Tubac, Carmen, and beyond, we are all a community at risk.
So who is responsible? The problem begins on the other side of the border in Nogales, Sonora. That's where Mexican water company Umapas has water pumps they say they can't afford to fix.
Behind this gate are the malfunctioning pumps responsible for sending wastewater containing raw sewage all the way across the border and into the washes around Arizona communities.
Umapas would not talk to Cronkite News in person, but did issue a video statement on Facebook.
According to the international treaties, we as an organization have the obligation to cover the costs, which are a really big financial weight for us.
If a pump breaks down, you should have extra pumps there all ready to take one out and put another one in there. Don't make your problems our problems.
They have to fix it because we don't want to get in trouble around here by getting sick.
Now, Umapas did not give a time frame for when they expect the malfunctioning pumps to be fixed. Austin Westfall, Cronkite News.
Right now, the White House is defending a budget blueprint that proposes deep cuts to domestic programs in education, health, and environmental programs.
The president's budget is just that. It's the president's vision as to where we need to go as a country under his proposed budget direction. Now, Congress is going to weigh in. We're going to go through the budget negotiations, and we'll prioritize in the House of Representatives, work with the Senate, and come up with a funding bill that reflects those prioritizations that I think we can agree upon.
The proposal, $2.7 trillion in spending cuts in some areas and boosting others with an eye toward the president's 2020 re-election campaign. It proposes a 5% increase in defense spending and $8.6 billion for a border wall, reviving a battle with Congress that resulted in a recent 35-day government shutdown. Hill Democratic leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer said the president won't get that wall money. Others say he needs to keep the budget process in mind.
Let's get this out in the open. One of the biggest criticisms of the president's ask has been that we haven't seen what he really wants and let the experts talk about it in a hearing. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's part of the budgetary process where you ask and then you negotiate. What I'd really like to see is some regular order with Senator Shelby and Senator Leahy with a hearing, and let's talk about it.
This week, the Senate is poised to reject the emergency declaration the president made to access funds for his border wall when Congress wouldn't approve the request last month. The president has said he'll veto the measure.
Another Trump administration plan was in the spotlight today. The Department of Homeland Security wants to change the definition of public charge, the standard that determines whether individuals are inadmissible to the U.S. based on things like the amount of public assistance an immigrant receives. And that has local officials concerned, as Micah Bledsoe reports from our Washington bureau.
The public benefits that DHS is eyeing include food stamps, housing, and healthcare assistance for immigrants here legally on visas or seeking green cards. Officials at the National League of Cities Conference here worried that those changes could have a far wider impact on their communities.
Everybody should be worried about those and what that really means. I mean, it seems like things need to be fleshed out a little bit more so we can have a better understanding of that.
Arredondo Savage was part of a packed panel discussion today on the proposed expansion of benefits covered under the public charge law. She says the change would definitely hit Arizona's 28,000 DACA recipients, but would be felt in the larger community as well.
So when you just think of that little population, think of all the other ones that we don't even know that are there, how important it is to make sure that they're taken care of, they feel safe, and they're included, because they are really part of our culture, not just in Tempe, but as in Arizona too.
Jackie Vimo, a policy analyst with the National Immigration Law Center, says in order for immigrant communities to to feel safe. They need to have access to proper services and resources, but they need to be properly informed about the changes as well.
Your life is more than your immigration case. We don't want a generation, 20 years from now, of kids who didn't get early childhood development, that didn't get the food and nutrition that they need because their parents were scared, and then we're going to have to be paying for that in years to come.
That's why city officials here say they keep a close eye on the changes.
We need to be that squeaky wheel. We need to be that voice. We need to get together and make sure that Congress is listening to us and that the president is listening to us.
Arredondo Savage agreed.
But I think what we heard today was it's important to put it on your radar and to really know what those impacts could be, because it obviously is going to be something that's very negative to a lot of people.
It's not clear if or when the change to the public charge rule will take effect. DHS has to wade through more than 266,000 public comments that were made to the change before they can propose a final rule. In Washington, Micah Bledsoe, Cronkite News.
Tomorrow is the Phoenix mayoral election, where former Democratic City Council members Kate Gallego and Daniel Valenzuela will go head-to-head. The deadline to mail in your ballot has passed, but there are 30 voting centers around the valley, and you can go to whichever one is the most convenient for you. Voting centers are open until 6 o'clock tonight. They'll be back open tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Coming up next on Cronkite News, learning how to be proactive in a house of worship.
How faith leaders are getting trained on what to do if an armed shooter targets their church.
And the population in Arizona is increasing at an alarming rate, and that means more traffic jams. We'll tell you how the rise could impact your commutes.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, covering sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
Fatal shootings at houses of worship are on the rise, according to Church Mutual Insurance, prompting the company to host armed intruder trainings across the country in hopes of saving lives. On Thursday, they held a training at a Paradise Valley church that Cronkite News reporter Bayan Wang had a chance to learn more about.
Everybody is got that mindset that it's not going to happen to me.
People always wait to prepare until maybe it's too late.
If a passerby peeked into the Paradise Valley United Methodist Church, they may have assumed a service had gone terribly wrong. More than 100 people from various churches in the valley participated in an armed intruder training, learning what to do if something actually does go terribly wrong.
What's very important for houses of worship and religious organizations to understand is that they are in a unique position when it comes to armed intruders. The whole purpose of a house of worship, a religious organization, is to be open and welcoming people into their mission and into their ministry.
That welcoming nature also poses a vulnerability, according to Guy Russ with Church Mutual Insurance. He says there have been 14 armed intruder cases at houses of worship, which have claimed the lives of 66 people since 2012.
We have to have something in place.
Participants at the event learned several key things they can do if ever confronted by an armed intruder, like alerting those nearby, locking down entrances, and evacuating when necessary. But one thing they also learned was to counter the attacker. And at a house of worship where several holy books are made readily accessible, throwing one at the attacker may just save some lives.
Certainly a book, a Bible, whatever the book is, certainly if we can use it to throw at somebody or to hit them over the head or to use it to distract them.
While fighting back may be the bravest act, former Secret Service agent Jason Russell says there's one step that may save the most lives.
Well, I think one of the largest weakness in terms of active violence situations is the ability to alert other people that it's happening, because you can't start responding until you know that it's happening.
At the end of the training, some left with a sense of urgency.
We do actually need to start a program.
In Paradise Valley, Bayan Wang, Cronkite News.
Church Mutual says they have 6 more trainings planned throughout the country this year.
Boeing gave a $3 million grant to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University to accelerate pilot training and aviation maintenance programs. One of the Embry-Riddle campuses is in Prescott, and they're hoping to encourage more diverse communities like women, African Americans, and veterans to become pilots. Right now, only 7% of pilots are women, and less than 3% are African Americans.
The U.S. Census Bureau has identified Maricopa County as the fastest growing county in the country. The population increase is worsening traffic congestion on local streets and freeways. Reporter Kyle Dowd spoke to local governments to find out what's driving that growth and how it might affect your commute times.
Eric Anderson, Executive Director of the Maricopa Association of Governments, says low land values, an attractive business environment, low taxes, and weather are among the driving factors of the valley's growth. But with that growth comes traffic.
Traffic is a double-edged sword. You know, when you have high levels of congestion, as we do from time to time here, especially during rush hour, that's a sign of really positive economic activity, good, strong economic activity.
At the heart of Arizona's growth is Maricopa County. With more than 4.3 million people, it is more populous than 23 states, according to the Census Bureau. Keeping that massive population mobile without causing traffic delays is a challenge for local governments. The city of Tempe is looking at ways to get people out from behind the wheel, including a streetcar that is slated to open in May of 2021.
This modern streetcar will connect the light rail to a more local commuter rail that basically goes through the downtown Mill Avenue, loop around Ash Avenue, and connect to specific stations of the light rail.
But some areas of the valley are less fortunate. Anderson points to what he calls transit deserts.
Many areas in the East Valley, east of Power Road, for example, have basically no public transportation service, no local service at all. There are major areas in the Northwest and the West Valley that don't have any transit service either. And so that's really something we really need to address.
The valley's most notable transportation project, the South Mountain Freeway, is scheduled to open this December. It is the largest freeway construction project in state history, according to the Arizona Department of Transportation. It's intended to connect the East and West Valley while reducing current traffic. The Census Bureau estimates the Phoenix metropolitan population will increase by 1.6 million people by 2030, which could dramatically increase traffic and create the need for future transit expansion or alternative forms of transportation.
More that we have congestion and delays on the system, it's a loss to the economy in terms of lost productive time sitting in your vehicle, although autonomous vehicles may help us deal with that in the future. But it's really key that we continue to make those kind of investments.
In Tempe, Kyle Dowd, Cronkite News.
Transportation projects in Maricopa County are funded by a half-cent sales tax that began in 1985. Arizona voters will approve or deny the continuation of the tax in 2022. Up next on Cronkite News, search and rescue dogs being trained right here in Phoenix.
The Cronkite News team gets down and dirty to put the canines to the test.
Coming up, I'll let you know when you can expect the rain tonight and how long it'll stay.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up. Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
Search and rescue dogs receive some training right here in Phoenix, and Cronkite News reporter Gabriela Bacara volunteered to be buried alive to see firsthand how rescues work.
To them, it's a game. It's a game of hide and seek.
The Phoenix Fire Department trains canines to work for national FEMA urban search and rescue teams.
So what we found is using the canines, they're very sure-footed. They put their weight on 4 feet. They're very light. These are 40, 50, 60-pound dogs. They can get in here and search this area way faster than we could.
The canines are trained on rubble piles created by the Phoenix Fire Department to reenact a building collapse similar to the World Trade Center.
We challenge them on the sense of smell to get in here and locate these victims and then alert their handler, letting them know there's a victim in the area.
I'm going to hide in this water basin and see if one of the dogs up for certification can come and find me.
We'll be with you shortly.
After a victim is found, there's always a celebration.
Yes, Elvis! Good boy! The scale of it is so massive. For us to go in there with just people with cameras and with listening devices would take too long. We wouldn't find people in time. The dogs can cover this rubble pile in a matter of minutes, where it would take us a matter of hours.
Captain Dana Medlin trained Elvis, an 18-month-old Labrador, for the FEMA certification test.
We'll have 2 piles roughly this size. They have to find 4 to 6 victims without alerting on distractions or missing any victims. If they do that, they become one of the approximately 200 certified urban search and rescue dogs for FEMA in the United States.
Medlin says it takes a hard-working canine to pass the test.
There's no guarantees that they'll take to this kind of work, that they'll love to be on the rubble, that they'll have enough play drive.
The training alone takes thousands of hours.
To them, it's fun. They're going out there, they're barking, they're alerting, they get a toy, they get to play. We love them, we play with them a lot, and to them, it's the greatest thing in the world.
In Phoenix, Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
All of the dogs trained by the Phoenix Fire Department passed their test to become a certified FEMA search and rescue canine.
Even though Arizonans got to skip the drama that came along with daylight savings, we could all use a little nap. And luckily, today is National Napping Day. The national holiday was created in 1999 by a Boston University professor and his wife to highlight the health benefits of napping, like lowering your tension, boosting your mood, and enhancing motor skills.
Now, Jody, is the weather nice enough to go hang out outside, or do we need to celebrate National Napping Day indoors?
Well, you might want to ditch your plans and just fully indulge into National Napping Day. Maybe watch a little Netflix. I know that's what I'll be doing tonight.
All for it.
Me too.
It's about 63 degrees outside right now. The sun tricked us a little bit earlier because the clouds are fully fledged right now. It's about 12 miles per hour of wind outside. It's just going to continue to get a little bit colder throughout the night. At 6 p.m., it's going to be at 60 degrees. It's just going to keep declining, get into the 50s a little bit. And then at 10 p.m., the rain is going to settle down a little bit, but you can kind of expect it to stay until tomorrow. Looking at the temperatures across the state, the Grand Canyon and Flagstaff are in the 30s and 40s. In Gila Bend, it's in 60s. And then looking at your 7-day forecast, the rain's going to continue until about noon tomorrow. The highs are going to be in the 60s. Thursday, the sun will come back out. Friday, the clouds will be back again, and then the sun will come back for the rest of the weekend, and we're going to get into the 80s on Monday. Thanks for watching the Cronkite News Weather Update. I'm Jody Guerrero.
From Cracker Jacks to bats, after the break, how one baseball player is making efforts to keep the field green.
And how he's getting his whole team involved in a movement to strike plastic bottles from the stands.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
There's no question hydration is key for any athlete, but where you get water can have a bigger impact. As reporter Blaine McCormick found out, one Milwaukee Brewers pitcher is trying to initiate a green footprint.
Go beer here, water, peanuts, Cracker Jacks.
It's essential, at a ball game or not. Water is what makes life function. But the plastic from empty bottles can stack up. That's why Brewers pitcher Brent Suter took a stand.
I've been kind of wanting to do it for a couple years now just because I've been using a reusable bottle for 5 years and I feel it can save. It's just an easy way to save a lot of plastic waste. So my cousin and I were sitting on the couch a couple years ago and we just made the hashtag strikeout waste and made the Twitter profile. We're like, you know, when the time is right, we can do this if we want to, and get some bottles for everybody and see if they want to do the reusable water bottles.
A study published in the journal Science in 2015 said that up to 13 million metric tons of plastic enter oceans each year. That's equivalent in weight to nearly 90 million baseballs. Suter's trying to do his part to get that number down. He tweeted a video asking teammates if they wanted to exclusively use reusable water bottles. His teammates were all in, from catcher Yasmani Grandal to even the skipper, Craig Counsell.
I'm already on my 4th fill up, and it's only 8:45 in the morning, so it makes it easier for you to drink water. You kind of want to drink water so that you're using the product.
When Nottingham came in and saw that there was water bottles, he was running to get one. He took a picture with Yasmani, and it's just it's great. I think everyone's like I said before, everyone's on board and enjoying it, and like you say, he's making a great cause.
Suter right now is rehabbing from Tommy John surgery. He's studied environmental science at Harvard and has a passion for saving the environment, along with his passion for baseball.
The ocean's filling up with plastic. Our landfills are a lot of plastic, and it doesn't biodegrade for a while. So just an easy way to kind of cut some unneeded single-use plastic waste out it'd be great for trying to preserve a future for our kids.
Suter said the company Zulu is sponsoring the initiative, and he keeps a list of all of those wanting to wash away plastic on his locker. In Phoenix, Blaine McCormick, Cronkite News.
Suter says his Tommy John rehab is moving along well, and he hopes he can help the team in the near future. That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.